Well, Jason, thanks again for joining us today on the Think Small podcast. My name is Rob Godlewski. I'm a podcast host for Think Small. And today, our guest is Jason Reed with Reed's Fuel and Trucking, based out of Oregon. Jason, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you for the invite. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Yeah, it's great. We had a chance to talk a couple weeks back, and you have a really interesting story. Tell us real quickly, how old is the business, and
Sure,
how long have you been working in the business?
sure. Yeah, my great grandfather and grandfather started the business in 1940. So this will be our 86th year here in Oregon. Um, they started the business originally as a moving company that quickly changed and then got into some home heating. Back in the 40s, people heated their homes with heating oil and wood sawdust. And so they did that for a while, and then they switched over to hauling firewood for home heating. And then they eventually, in the 50s, they got rid of the heating oil business and kind of switched over to servicing sawmills in our local area. Sawmills in Oregon are pretty popular. And so they took care of doing that and would haul the bark off the trees, the sawdust from cutting the wood into two by fours, the shavings from planing the mill, the lumber down. And so that's just kind of grown from there from about the mid 50s on up to now is we're primarily chip truck operation. So we haul wood byproducts out of sawmills. And so yeah, 86 years. I'm the fourth generation. Both my son and daughter are working with the company. They've been here. Our daughter's been involved for 2 years. Our son has been involved for a year. So they'll be the fifth generation if they continue to want to grow the company and keep it going down the road, which we hope they want to. So I personally have been here 42 years. So it's been a long road, but it's a lot of achievements. We've had a lot of ups and a lot of downs, like all business people, a lot of challenging times. But we're still here every day. So, that's a good thing. We operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So, we're pretty busy.
You literally can't get any busier with those kind of hours. That's incredible. I know one of the things we uncovered, when we first spoke was the fact that you now have a fifth generation of family in the business.
Right.
And I work with a lot of clients that are maybe on their second generation of business leaders, but having a fifth is just so rare. And your personal tenure with the business is just so rare. What do you attribute that longevity really to?
Well, I think that I think I saw the stats where to make it to the fourth generation, it's less than 5% of all family businesses make it to the fourth, and
Surprised it's that much.
less than 2% make it to the fifth generation. So
Wow.
there's a lot of pride and dedication in the area that we serviced. I started when I was 6 years old. My grandfather would come get me and take me to the shop, and I'd sweep the floors, do parts inventory, sort nuts and bolts, power wash the trucks, clean the inside. So I literally when somebody says they lived in an industry, I have literally lived in this industry. I've just been in it full time for 42 years, but there's a lot of pride that we have within the business. And we're starting that with my children now. Is my son's been driving. I had him go to a truck driving school to get his driving CDL license. So he's been driving, getting to know the inner workings of how we service our customers, why we do certain things a certain way. Our daughter works in the office. She's learning that aspect of the business. And they complement each other very well. But, there's when you're in a community, we're in Eugene, Oregon, which is about 2 hours south of Portland. So Eugene is the area where the Oregon Ducks are located at University of Oregon. So it's not that huge of a community. So there's a lot of pride when we go in the community and we reinvest and support the local communities and schools and stuff like that. So I think that's one thing that's really kept us going. I'm very active on our social media sites, and every Thursday I do a throwback Thursday of some of the history of the company. And it's surprising to me of some of the drivers that I've known for or I worked with over 30, 40 years, and now they're in retirement and they come back and they're always appreciative of what we've done for them and their families and more importantly, supporting the community. So it's always nice to get feedback from people and understand, they really appreciate what we do.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm sure you have a lot of a lot of followers with that kind of that type of tenure in any business. That's
Right.
congratulations on that. So tell us, Jason, you have a pretty unique business. It's not just a trucking company, as I've learned. So
Right.
tell me about, or tell our audience about, what is it that Reed's Fuel and Trucking really does? What customers do you serve?
Sure.
And and how are you different than other people maybe doing the same type of thing in the
Sure.
area?
Yeah, so what we do is again we have chip trucks, and so when a mill or when a tree comes out of the forest and goes to a mill to be processed into lumber, it goes to a sawmill, and that sawmill will take the bark off the trees. They will take when they cut the round log into square 2x4s or 4x6s or whatever the lumber dimension is. They have sawdust that's generated from the saws cutting that wood, and then again planer shavings when they make the lumber from a rough material to a smooth finished product. They have shavings. And then also they have, when they take the bark off, they also have chips when they're chipping the material or, scrap
Sure.
they're not going to utilize. They chip that. And so we haul all those products in that, which is in our industry is called wood residuals. So it's kind of like
Okay.
we're kind of like the garbage man of the sawmill. So, whatever the garbage is and making the finished product, we haul that all out. Um, some of our customers, when they're at full production, they will produce a load every 30 minutes. So it's a very high demand, high stress um, profession that we're in.
And
Not
high volume.
high volume, yeah. So, we run 40 trucks and we double shift each truck. Um, and to get into our act to like we and I talked, we're just not in the trucking industry. The access to get into our industry, you're looking at about 150 to $175,000 just for one trailer. And then the
Sure.
truck itself is over 200,000. So, you're approaching close to $400,000 for one setup. And if a person goes out and is fortunate enough to get funding to buy that one setup, you're really not going to be able to access into the industry because there's such a high volume, high demand. You're going to need more than one truck. So,
Right.
and the dedication that follows, I mean, buying the equipment is pretty much the easiest part of it. It's having a great group of staff that help support not only the customers, but also the employees that we have, mechanics to keep the trucks running. So you have to have a shop, you have to have drivers willing to work, the weekends. Not everybody wants to work the weekends, and everybody wants to work night shifts. So being able to be flexible and make sure that coworker feels valued and appreciated is something that we get a lot of compliments on because it's not the norm for the trucking industry as a whole. And more
Mm.
importantly, the myself and the other staff here, and then I also have a co-owner that's been with me for 32 years, came out of the military. I hired him as a driver. He's worked his way up. We promote from within on all of our managers. So we promoted him on up through the ranks, and now he is my business partner. So, there's always that opportunity for growth for somebody. If we find somebody that really wants to take a leadership role, we'll put them into maybe like a training position where they train the new people or maybe move them into a relief dispatcher. If they exceed on that, we'll move them into dispatching. So we really create that whole team atmosphere and really present it that, it takes all of us to make it work. It's just not me, but it takes all of us and the dispatchers and everybody to work together as a team to make this thing work.
That's really amazing. You dropped in a lot of tidbits into that description, but the business itself is really interesting in that your customer is that original sawmill,
Right,
right? And you're shipping their waste
right,
to somebody else who needs it, and they're not necessarily selling that waste product to that other customer, correct?
right, correct. Sometimes
They're
there's
it's just trash.
right. Yeah, it's an over. Sometimes there's a like right now there's an oversupply in our area for the bark that comes off the tree and the sawdust that's generated. So some of the sawmills
Okay.
are just getting rid of it just so they can keep their sawmills running because they don't have the storage to make a big stockpile somewhere or a big pile
Right.
in a field. So, they need to get it out of their production so that way we can keep servicing the mill so the mill doesn't shut down and, they make the money off the two befores and the lumber and
Right.
all that. They don't make it off the garbage. So,
And the garbage is just a bottleneck in
right.
their manufacturing process.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay.
we call for some pretty big players like Georgia Pacific in our area,
Sure.
International Paper, uh,
Yeah.
uh, Sierra Pacific is a big area, is a big supplier in the Northwest. So there's some pretty big hitters that we service. And I actually think the reason that we are fortunate enough to have those and keep those people is because of the way that we treat our customers. We are always in contact with our customers. We're always, every day, we send them out a report of what we did the previous day, how many loads we took out of their production facility, where those loads went. We have a quota that goes to each different destination. So they have that when they come to work in the morning, it's on their computer from us. We also go and visit our customers personally, which seems to be a dying issue, if you will, that everybody wants to talk on the phone or just text or send an email, but that personal contact, like you and I are doing, it's
Yeah.
lost. And especially in our industry, when we go and physically visit a customer, whether it's in Washington, Oregon, or down into California, we consistently get the report from them that they cannot believe that we took time out of our day to drive 5 or 6 hours to go meet with them, even if it's just for an hour and a half lunch, and then we'll drive that back. Just because that's how important our customers are. We want to have that face-to-face contact. We want to make sure what we're doing is what they need, and if there's something else that we can do to help them be successful, then that's what we're there for.
Jason, I got to tell you, I'm energized when I hear you talk about that. But I will say that this is becoming a very common thread, at least with the people I'm speaking with in the Think Small podcast community. And regardless of industry, I just spoke to someone in the high tech world, and they literally said the same thing you just did.
Hmm.
With all the efficiencies gained by using AI, they still believe that the human touch and literally human communication with your customer is vital for long-term sustainability and growth. So um, you might say it's a lost art, but I'm hopeful it's not going to be a lost art.
Yeah, I'm actually hopeful for that also. I mean, I think AI is going to continue to be more and more important in the business world,
Sure
but
it will.
you still got to have that personal contact. I mean, if you want to separate yourself from your competition, you still need to have that personal contact involved.
I I agree. I agree. So you've been with the business now for 42 years, and clearly you've seen times when revenues and sales have really ramped up and accelerated,
Right.
but also kind of slowed down and decelerated. Tell
Right.
me about a time when business was slowing and what you did within the business to kind of get the business out of that.
Sure. So about in the 1960s, we added some flatbeds into our fleet of trucks, if you will. And
Hmm.
those continued until the early 2000s because, now I'm starting to show my age for the younger group that you're listening. But in 2008, 2009, there was a huge crash in the market, and it really affected the housing market in our
Oh
industry.
yeah.
And so at that time, we were running 30 flatbeds along with a bunch of chip trucks. And we were hauling 5 Western states. We
Mm.
had drivers in all the trucks. And when that market crashed, that whole industry of the flatbed world, the housing market, anything that needed to be hauled on a flatbed was just pretty much wiped out. So we had to start reinventing the wheel. I mean, we could see it coming just by it just didn't one day all of a sudden that market crashed. It was, slow progression, death by 1,000 needles or whatever that saying.
Yeah, yeah.
So once we started realizing the slowdown, we had to start pivoting our business and trying to figure out what are we going to do to keep not only the equipment busy, but more importantly, how are we going to keep our employees and make sure that they can pay their bills. So we started pivoting and tried to, we went to work for the Forest Service in our area, of course, the timber. In the summertime, they have forest fires. So we put a couple water tenders together. We had a
Mm.
grader that we used to grade our truck yard. And so we went out into the Forest Service and provided water tender service and also a grader service with our lowboy just to keep, it would keep maybe 4 or 5 drivers busy, but that was one thing we could pivot and do. And then we started looking at other things we could do. Eventually, by the end of 2009, we just had to get rid of all of our flatbeds and try to, we added a little bit of chip truck capacity. Some people retired or went and did other things just because it affected everybody. But 2008, 2009, that was pretty tough. I mean, to take half of your fleet at that time and to actually just park it and lose that revenue, that was a hard pill to swallow when trying to figure out how you were gonna, pivot from that marketplace that you relied on so much from, and how are you going to recover from that. So thankfully, we survived it, and had a lot of sleepless nights and tried to figure out how we're going to do it, but we did it.
That's incredible. So, the novice podcast listener might think that that was, oh, it's just a trucking company. You just bought some different trucks, but the complexity of what you had to pivot to was much more than that. You
Right.
had a whole new set of equipment, you had a whole new set of customers, and you
Right.
had to develop a whole new set of solutions for those
Correct.
customers.
Yeah.
You literally had to reinvent a piece of your business to keep the business alive and
Right.
flourishing.
And it was all on the fly. I mean, it wasn't, hey, what do you think about going and doing this? I mean, you're still trying to make your other portion of your business survive, keep the morale positive within your employees or your coworkers, plus, spend time trying to find a new customer base when everybody was already slow and then
Right.
penetrate that marketplace. And again, I think one of the things that helped us survive that or gain some access into some of those marketplaces was that personal contact, going in personal meet with them, having a true understanding, ask of what they needed, how they did their production, whatever they did. I went out and met with the Forest Service people so I could spec the equipment properly. Do you need a grader? We're out here on all these gravel roads. You need a grader service to grade for when we're out here fighting forest fires. Well, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, we need that. So, it's just that personal contact that again, I really think helped us survive. Again, if you're not in the wood products industry or housing market, maybe 2008, 2009 didn't affect you much, but it was a huge impact for our area in Oregon.
I lived through it in a completely different business, Jason, and I'm with you. It did not happen overnight to me either, but boy, it was a huge impact to the to a lot of businesses and the overall economy for a while. So congratulations for pivoting that drastically. Flipping to a more positive, kind of discussion is
Sure.
let's talk about areas of growth and or periods of growth, right? I think you're kind of in one of those now,
Yes. Yeah.
and so
Right.
tell me how you're. But that also brings up a bunch of challenges and different problems that revenue contraction brings. So tell me about how you're navigating that and mitigating the impact of fast
Sure.
growth.
Yeah. So currently we have 3 of our biggest customers are revamping their mills, updating equipment, spending millions of dollars to produce more wood. And three of them are looking at almost doubling their production. Well, those three can already, if they're at max production, can already produce a load every 30 minutes. So, so once we get a load and we're pulling out of the mill site, so behind me in my backdrop or background is a picture of a sawmill that we load out of. So you have these big metal bins that we pull out of, and this is one of our trucks pulling out from underneath that. So as soon as that truck pulls out, it's like somebody standing there with a stopwatch, and 30 minutes from then, there'll be another load for a truck to get.
Right.
And that's just one product. So if it's a mill, like our larger ones where we haul 4 or 5 different products, you have bark, chips, sawdust, shavings, and whatever else there might be that we're hauling, that's per product. So if we're hauling something, say 30 minutes away, that's going to take a couple trucks to do that. What we're seeing now is we're starting to haul more export chips. So it's, instead of going 30 minutes up the valley, now we're having to go 120 miles. So basically 2 hours in a truck, 2.5 hours in a truck over to the coast and in Oregon, and then it goes to an export facility. Well, that takes more trucks because when you're used to going back and forth 30 minutes, not a big deal. But then when you have to go 2 hours one way or 2.5 hours one way, and if in Oregon in the summertime, there's lots of road construction. So if you get held up in road construction, it takes more trucks. If one of the dump facilities that we deliver to, it goes down the hydraulic cylinders that lift the truck and the trailer up in the air. If that goes down, then all of a sudden we're sitting there waiting for a couple hours, and that stopwatch is still there. Somebody's still timing us. And
I was going to say your cycle time at your customer isn't changing,
no, it's not changing at all. So
but your travel time
right,
is increasing by 4 or 5 fold.
yes, exactly.
And oh, by the way, as you mentioned, it's $400,000 to increase the capacity of your fleet, right? To
For one
for
truck,
for one truck.
right, exactly. Yeah. So
That's a
and
heck of a challenge.
in the sawmills, the agreement we have with the customers, we don't want them to shut down their mill. So if we get held up somewhere, they will just dump the material on the ground. We have a front end loader, we have a skid steer. We will go and we'll clean up the mess. You know, it's bad on us, whether it's our fault or not. It doesn't matter. We're in the customer service business, so whatever it takes. So those people don't have to shut down their sawmill and keep their production going. We will clean up the mess if it's created because of something that we did. But to get back to your point, so we have these mills that are increasing their production. They're increasing the amount of area that we're traveling to. And so, yeah, so we're in a growth mode right now to be prepared for that. That's coming middle of this year. We're going to start seeing some of that increase. And so, yeah, so we're trying to get geared up, buying more equipment, getting drivers trained. So it's an exciting time for us. There's a lot of people in our area that are struggling right now. We're extremely fortunate to have the customer base that we have. And we realize that, and we want to portray that importance to the customer, that we value them and the business that they're giving us. So, the management team that I have that really helps support our customers is probably one of the best in the area as far as I'm concerned. And the efficiency that we do and how we've been able to dial it in, it really speaks a lot for my team, and am really proud that they're part of my team.
I can hear it in your voice, Jason. And it's highly valuable to have a management team and just an overall team that you can trust,
Right.
To serve your customers the way you want them to be served.
Right. And then all of us, like I alluded to earlier, my business partner, he started as a driver. We all started as
Sure.
all of us that are in the management team. So if needed, if we have a driver calling sick, we'll get in a truck and drive. We all have CDLs. We know how to drive a truck. I mean, that's to the extent that we will go. I mean, we have no problem hopping in a truck and taking care of our customers. And they know that. I mean, they have seen us driving a truck out on their mill, making sure they're taken care of. And that goes a long ways for them also.
I can only imagine how far that goes. I mean, I can imagine the referrals and the testimonials that you get from your customers just by you literally showing up in a truck,
Right.
getting the job done.
Yeah. Yeah, and then another thing that you and I talked about real quick a couple weeks ago when we met,
Sure.
at that time we had just that day a rail system. Some of our customers haul by rail some chips to production facilities, and the rail system had derailed on a bridge, and it was knocking out that rail system. And so I was concerned about how we were going to do that. I mean, no heads up, just the rail car derailed, and that shut that rail system down. And our production was increased because all those chips that usually go in a rail car, which takes 4 chip truck loads to load one rail car, all that was diverted to the bunker that we service, or the bin, those metal bins behind me. And so we got that excess material to start hauling 2 hours away to the coast, to a paper mill over on the coast.
Hmm.
So like that, we went from hauling maybe 20 loads a week to this paper mill on the coast to now doing 80 loads a week. And so now we were able to manipulate, how we were servicing all our customers, and adapt and overcome. We were able to do it within a day. And it was just, again, it goes right back to the team and the support staff that all of us do. And more importantly, our dedication to our customers. And
So out of a transportation emergency, you were able to quadruple the business from a customer that needed that
yeah,
product.
we were actually in the middle of trying to sell some of our older equipment, and once that happened, we put everything. We didn't sell anything, put it all back on the road, and we just started taking care of our customer.
It's
So,
amazing. I was in a business once before that actually benefited with the after effects of storm events. And
okay,
it's not that we were wishing for more storms to come around, but
sure,
you had to be ready.
right.
That's really impressive. Um, so kind of wrapping up here then, with the business being in business for over 80 years, you've been at the business for half of that. What kind of advice would you have for mid-sized businesses now that are maybe struggling with how do they take their business to the next level? How do they navigate periods of downturn revenue or exponential growth?
Sure. I think there's three things really. And number one is you have to know your numbers. I mean, you have to know, are you making money? Where's your expenses at? How can you be more efficient? If you don't know your numbers, yeah, that's business 101. You've got to know your numbers. If you don't know how you're making a widget, or, whatever you're selling a burger to somebody, how much does it cost to make that? And make sure you know exactly to the penny what that is. Um,
Right.
Number two, I couldn't do this without the staff that I have, and my co-owner, and the management staff I have. I cannot do this without them. So you have to surround yourself with great people, and so you're supporting, and having the same goals that you have. How not everybody wants to service their customers the way that myself and my business partner want to service, because it takes time and dedication to do that. So, you have to be able to portray that business lifestyle, if you would, to those people, and portray that that's how you want your customers taken care of. A lot of our competition, if they have drivers call in sick, they just tell the customer, sorry, we're not showing up today. Um, so, we don't say no to our customers. Um, and then so yeah, so there's that, and then there's just being flexible. So I mean, just because you're headed down the road, I mean, you got to be somewhat flexible and always looking for other opportunities that might come up, that you might think you have the best thing since sliced bread, and then somebody else, especially with AI coming around for everybody,
Yeah.
you need to be flexible. And you know, 2 years ago I couldn't even spell AI. Now I'm got it. So you definitely have to be aware of what's going on there.
That's amazing. And such great words of advice. And you know what? Who can argue with you?
Right.
80 years in business. coming up in your fifth generation of leadership. That's just not something that is seen too much anymore today. So I applaud you, and I know that our podcast audience is really going to be anxious to hear the story. Um, well, listen, Jason, it's been such a great time connecting with you and listening to your story. Um, any last thoughts for our listening audience?
I just, if you're in the business world, just keep going. I mean, it's a fun ride for sure. It's never a dull moment, and I keep showing up. But it's a lot of fun. And if you have any questions, go on our social media sites. Facebook is Reed's Fuel and Trucking. Check it out and see what we do. So we have followers from all over the United States, all over internationally. I've got people from Europe and Australia and everything that are just amazed and knowing the type of equipment we're running, but just the things we do on a daily basis that we take for granted.
That's amazing. Well, again, Jason, thank you so much for your time today. And again, Jason Reed with Reed's Fuel and Trucking. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it.